I'm saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma. Sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
Once again, welcome back to All-Star Buzz. Always glad to have you here. Let's dive right in. Bill Maher is back at it with his classic no-holds-barred style, this time zeroing in on Whoopi Goldberg. Known for stirring controversy on The View, Goldberg recently made comments so full of contradictions and shaky logic that Maher couldn't resist. And when Bill's season opening, you know what comes next. A full-on verbal smackdown, sharp and unapologetic.
Can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
What Maher calls performative wokeness is the one thing he simply won't tolerate. And this wasn't his first dust-up with The View. When Goldberg doubled down to defend herself, the result was a swift and cutting takedown. Goldberg's attempt to level the playing field echoed her earlier sparring with Sunny Hostin, but instead of delivering a solid counterpoint, her strategy felt more like throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what might stick. Maher dismantled her past claims that Black Americans mainly just want jobs, a stable economy, and reasonable policing by pointing out the contradictions. He came across as sharp and focused, while Goldberg drifted into unrelated political talking points, leaning on the same well-worn woke playbook. But as Maher quipped, if your entire playbook is built on strawmen and half-truths, sooner or later it collapses on itself. His critique wasn't just about Goldberg's arguments, it was about The View as a whole, which he likened to a political talk show train wreck. Impossible to watch without cringing, but even worse to actually be part of.
Above any matters of politics or what's right or wrong, the one thing I know for sure about America is this. It's run by mean girls. Mean girls in the press and in politics and in life, and when they smell blood in the water, the lust to finish off a vulnerable person will never be denied.
Instead of simply dismantling one flawed argument, Maher framed Goldberg's latest clash with him as part of a bigger problem: America's slide into ideological rigidity and performative outrage. With Goldberg unwilling to budge on her convictions and Maher equally stubborn in his refusal to compromise, it's obvious this battle is far from over. Maher argued that The View doesn't thrive on nuance, it thrives on spectacle. And he's not wrong. Their ongoing back and forth has become less about thoughtful debate and more about cultural theater, drawing cheers and jeers from every corner of the political spectrum. Love it or hate it, Bill Maher versus Whoopi Goldberg is still one of the hottest tickets in town. Add to that the chaos of Charlemagne the God's daring debut on The View. Watching him navigate the mayhem was like seeing someone walk a tightrope over a pit of lions. No wonder he looked like he had accidentally stepped into another dimension. And then came the political bombshell, President Joe Biden's controversial pardon of his son Hunter after corruption convictions that were glaringly obvious, like a spotlight on center stage. Biden, long branded as a champion of justice, suddenly looked more like the face of family first immunity. Accountability, it seems, skipped the Biden family meeting. Charlemagne wasted no time calling out the hypocrisy. He argued that the "no one is above the law" slogan should apply universally. And that sounded fair. But not to Whoopi. Her defense of Biden was like watching someone stand knee-deep in the ocean while insisting they weren't wet. On the latest episode of Whoopi's Whoppers, she even claimed with a straight face that Biden hadn't lied when he said, "Nobody is above the law." In her effort to twist the logic, she ended up tying herself in knots, once again proving that defending the indefensible is its own kind of performance art. Charlemagne even seemed stunned, practically blurting, "Did she just say that?" But Whoopi wasn't finished. She went on to float the idea that maybe Biden pardoned Hunter because he was tired of being ignored, as if it were some bold act of self-care to forgive your son's corruption conviction. This, as Bill Maher has often pointed out, is the core flaw of woke logic: the double standard. When someone outside their bubble makes a mistake, the outrage machine goes into overdrive. But when it's one of their own, suddenly the moral compass malfunctions, accountability disappears, and the spin cycle begins. Even Charlemagne, usually quick on his feet, was left speechless. The cameras caught him sitting in stunned silence while Whoopi and her crew acted as though they could bluff their way out. That illusion didn't last long. Maher wasn't about to let it slide. His takedown was one of the most vicious verbal hammerings in recent memory, leaving Goldberg's defenses in ruins and the woke crowd scrambling to contain the fallout. And Maher was right. The self-appointed moral judges of the woke mob have once again exposed their hypocrisy. Hunter Biden's wrongdoing was blatant, yet his father's power gave him immunity. If anyone else had been in his place, the mob would have been howling for blood. But when it's their own, justice suddenly becomes fuzzy, abstract, negotiable. The real question isn't whether Maher's attack was justified. I mean, it absolutely was. The real question is how long Americans will tolerate this double standard. Maher went further, calling out the larger system itself, one that enriches the powerful while crushing ordinary people. And he didn't stop there. He reminded viewers how the media once worked overtime to bury the Hunter Biden scandal, dismissing it as Russian disinformation. Their goal wasn't truth, it was shielding Biden while damaging Trump's re-election bid. That censorship came at a cost. Free expression took a hit, dissenting voices were silenced, and The View doubled down with Whoopi leading the charge, defending the indefensible with the same mix of denial and misplaced passion. But Maher cut through it with surgical precision. He wasn't going to let Goldberg or anyone else rewrite reality to suit their narrative. It wasn't just Whoopi under fire. The toxic culture of The View itself was laid bare. Maher dismantled their reasoning and credentials piece by piece, exposing how the show has devolved into a forum for ideological gatekeeping. Instead of fostering real dialogue, Goldberg and her co-hosts mock, sneer, and demean anyone who dares challenge their worldview. Whoopi's signature contempt has become less a debate tactic than her entire brand. And yet, intellectual honesty still matters, and even if it's harder to find these days. Maher called the show out for what it has become, a Shark Tank where dissenting voices are shredded, not to test ideas, but to feed an audience addicted to outrage. Their smug smiles, dismissive laughs, and stage-managed gestures didn't faze him one bit. That's why Maher's relentless attacks on the woke mob resonate so deeply. He exposes much of their activism as little more than bullying dressed up as virtue. His latest no-holds-barred commentary was a badly needed injection of truth in a culture dominated by groupthink. He reminded the left of their endless hand-wringing over Trump's 2016 victory, dismissing their denial as pearl clutching. He didn't steal it, cheat for it, or conjure it out of thin air. Millions of Americans, Maher argued, genuinely embraced Trump's message, and no matter how much progressives despised it, and Maher didn't stop there. It's not a bug, it's the system working as intended, he pressed, forcing his critics to confront an inconvenient truth. Democracy sometimes delivers results you don't like. If the left wants to compete in 2028, or even 2032, they need to stop playing the victim and start preparing for the next fight. His critique cut at the excuses too, blasting the habit of blaming everything on racism or Russia. For Maher, those scapegoats are not only tired, they're toxic to any real strategy. More importantly, he highlighted what Democrats miss about Trump's base. Not every Trump voter is a MAGA zealot. Many were simply fed up with sanctimonious lectures, endless moral scolding, and what Maher described as the woke mob's war on common sense, from biological men competing in women's sports to rallies that blur the line between activism and extremism. Middle-class Americans didn't flock to Trump because they loved his late-night tweets or his tanning bed glow. They did it because the alternative felt like being lectured by a self-righteous vegan at a barbecue. Maher says it plainly. If Democrats want those voters back, they need to stop chasing radical ideals and start focusing on policies that actually help ordinary people. Until then, the woke mob's theatrics will keep blowing up in their faces. His latest clash with Whoopi Goldberg made that point crystal clear. Her arguments collapsed under their own contradictions, leaving her stranded in the wreckage while Maher coolly dismantled every excuse. This wasn't just a rebuttal. It was a masterclass. Maher mixed logic, wit, and unapologetic comedy to turn The View's hypocrisy into a punchline. A show that brags about hosting diverse viewpoints suddenly looked allergic to diversity of thought. As Maher quipped, the joke only makes sense if you already agree with them. He exposed what Goldberg and her co-hosts really thrive on, an echo chamber where loyalty to the tribe matters more than critical thinking, and dissent is mocked instead of debated. They don't want dialogue, Maher explained. They want obedience. Watching him work was like seeing a maestro conduct, sarcasm instead of strings, reason instead of brass. The performance was sharp, scathing, and, for audiences sick of fake outrage, deeply satisfying. Maher's takedown wasn't just about Whoopi, it was about what's rotting public discourse itself. Echo chambers, manufactured rage, hypocrisy dressed as virtue, and in that mess, Maher throws a lifeline. A rare moment of clarity. In a culture obsessed with outrage, he flips nonsense on its head and reminds us comedy, when wielded with reason, is still the sharpest weapon against hypocrisy.